Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Knowledge on Tap. With me today is Chris LeClerc, product specialist from CNC Software.
Hi everyone. Today we're going to be going over just a few things with the Swiss solution in Mastercam. We're going to be touching on a lot of different things, ranging from lathe stock advance to weight commands, balance turning. So let's get started.
Yep. So for all my customers out there that have the Swiss solution, I've gotten the question a few times in the beginning when we're setting up our stock advance before we start writing operations that they would like to have a default set so they wouldn't have to go through all the steps all the time. And I'm going to go over that first right now with you on what we can do with that. Let me just open it up here. Let me open up the stock advance right away. See, get this, and you see we have this saved from whatever project we've done in the past. We have all our parameters filled out. We would have to go through and fill all these out, start from the beginning, and we'd have to do that, but we want to save this. So what I'd like to do, since we can't save it, the stock advance, without any geometry or an actual cutting operation, what I do is I just create a point, put it on the screen so I've got some geometry, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll just write a face operations. Usually the facing operation's the first one that you do anyways, typically, so your tool's gonna be set, so you aren't really gonna have to change anything. So we'll do that. If I go into turning, I'll write my face operation. Which tool is I gonna use here? This tool. Okay, wrote my face, and now right here, if I save this file, whatever name it is, and I could save it as a setup. So I could just go File, I'll do a Save As. Whatever.
And you could name this, if you had multiple machines, you could save it as setup for Sugami or setup for Star, setup for Citizen.
Exactly.
Right?
So if you've got different machines in the shop, you just go through this setup right here and just save them wherever you want them. You just bring them in, and now at this point, it's just a matter of going and importing a file. Okay, so now I can just go ahead and merge a file in. Got my file in, I could go ahead and now I could reorient it. Okay, align to Z. I'm going to move this, transform this to my top plane. And there it is. I've got my thing. I'm ready to go. I have
and
all
that
my
brings in your lathe machine file, your post file, your control file.
It's already there, yep. And I've got all my parameters, which I could go ahead and change for this particular part.
Yeah, so that's a big time
All ready
saver.
to go, and I've got my first operation ready to go.
Nice.
The next thing I wanted to show was setting up a default cutoff for Swiss. Those of you who have it know that you have to go through a couple parameter pages and make some changes to it to work for the Swiss cutoff operation. Primarily, the first thing that has to change is the retract, like with a Swiss machine, and the reason for that, Chris, is what? Why we need to leave the tool down.
So on a Swiss machine, when we do the part off and transfer, we need to keep our cutoff in front of the stock, because after cutting a part off, our main collet opens to regrip more material, and your bar feeder is typically pushing that material forward. If we don't have anything stopping that material from coming forward, that material is going to shoot out to your subspindle. So the difference between the Swiss and a CNC lathe is we don't want our cutoff to retract. And it's kind of a lot of extra clicks to go in and do this every time. So what Vince is going to show is how to set up a default Swiss operation for Poco, where you can do your Swiss machine and your CNC lathe with two totally different cutoff operations.
And it's fairly simple to do too. The first thing you have to make sure is that you have your machine loaded in your operations manager. You can expand out properties, go to files, and what we're going to go to our operation library right here. We're going to hit the exclamation point, open it up. That's going to expose all our operation files here. And what we're going to do is we're going to look in our turning tool paths. We're going to go to our lathe cutoff. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it. I'm going to go right click. I'll just hold the right mouse button down and just do a copy after. Copy after. What I'll go into the parameters then of the one I copied. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the comments and I'm going to rename it Swiss. So I know that this is the cutoff operation for when I do my Swiss programming. I'll go in and what I'll do is reference points off. I'm going to make sure that I have my retract radius set to none. I usually put a value of 0 in here because that's handled through the automatic cutoff cycle. And I'm going to remove an extra lead in, lead out. We don't need any extra code for that. So I'm just going to take that off. And this is how I want my cutoff cycle to run every time when I use my Swiss.
Now there are some other parameters here, Vince, that we could change, correct? Like our cut to point on the cutoff. If you were using an angled cutoff, you could use the front corner of the radius or the back radius.
That's correct.
And then you could also change your X tangent point. How far does our cutoff cut below center? So if you're trying to force your machine to negative 20 thousandths, negative 40 thousandths, you could type in a value here so that you get the same output X number every single time.
And you can make as many of these as you want. So say you've got different width cutoff tools, or you got different, or even different machines. If you want one on the front radius, one on the back, you could just make them and just name them accordingly so that you know what they are when you go to pick them. And then that's pretty much all you have to do.
And that warning you saw flash is just Mastercam warning you that the retract values of the cutoff were set to 0, and that if this were a lathe, you could have an incident. But on a Swiss, it's okay.
All right, so if I open up another file, let's see if I can get one here. It should be the weight codes.
Hit enter. You're not out of...
No, I'm not. Hit the green check mark at the end, and green check mark again. Now I'll open up another file. We can see that. Let's create a cutoff operation and see the changes we made. Go through, select, get rid of that point. It should all be set for me. Go to the second page here, make sure that my reference point's good. Go to the cutoff operation itself, and you'll see I've got the list of all the different cutoff operations, including the one we just created right here. Go through. Goes through, generates our cutoff operation. So if we open up this operation, you'll see that all the changes we made have stuck. No radius, 0, no lead in, lead out, and the depth that we want to cut at.
Nice.
It's
so again,
just like that. Yep.
A big time saver from having to type in these variables every single time, or these values every single time.
Exactly, and especially if you have different machines, different width cutoffs,
sure,
you just grab them and it just generates it automatically for you.
That's
good
nice.
Time saver. All right, guys, the last segment here for Knowledge on Tap, I'm going to go over the use of weight codes in Mastercam Swiss Solution. Gotten a lot of questions about this lately, so I figured I might as well include it in this video segment. So let's go over a scenario where in my machine, I've got a tool holder and I've got a drill on both ends where I'm going to have to drill on the main, I'm going to have to drill on the sub. Now we need to put a weight code here, obviously, because we don't want this tool holder moving while it's still engaged, let's say, in the sub spindle. We need to weight these to put them together. And this is how we're going to do it in Mastercam. What I do is I'll write my operations and I'm going to write them back to back. So if I know I'm drilling on the main, I'll write the main one first, and then immediately I'll write the tool path to do on the sub, so they're tied together so I don't get confused if it's not, 5 operations down. Just keep them tied together to make things simple. And what we do from there is I'll go into the parameters of my first operation on the main spindle, go into miscellaneous values, and you'll see I've got a section here for weight code before op and weight code after the op. So this is what we're going to need to fill out. So I'm going to say for a weight code here, I'm going to use 220. And then after the op, it's going to be 225.
So Vince, let me interrupt you for a minute. So
Yep.
you're typing in weight code 220, 225. Just from experience, Star uses weight commands from M200 to M999. Sugami uses weight codes M500 to M599. SwissTech uses different weight codes. So this is all specific weight codes to the machine that
To
you're
your
programming.
machine. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you don't know what they are, I guess you have to call your AE for your machine.
At your machine
right?
tool
Yes,
builder.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to set that one up. Finish that. Second one, I'm going to go into my subspindle operation. And you'll see I've got my axis combination set accordingly for it. Go back into miscellaneous values, and I'm going to put the same ones in. 220 and 225. Now this is going to link those two operations together. One important thing we need to do is what we're going to do is we're going to suppress a tool call for the subspindle because essentially we're using the same tool. If we go, if I go back to the picture, you see I'm calling tool 1100 here and the subspindle is going to go. But we need to have a tool number for that.
And tool 2100 is in the lower left corner of this image, correct?
Correct. It's down here.
So we don't want the subspindle to go to the subspindle backworking tools. We want to keep it in line with X0.
Right. So, I mean, because you're suppressing the tool call, you could put any tool number in there you want. Okay.
So the post is just going to block out that tool
It'll
call.
block it out, right?
Okay.
And then that's all we need to do there. Get it set. So I think I can go ahead and I'll just select everything and post it. Save. This is a 2-stream.
Yep.
Let's get our code expert up. Stream. This is a tar 2-stream. Get rid of that, right? Move, select this one. Now, if I go to align syncs, I'm going to see I have my codes right here for my drill operations. Right?
So if we can
Go ahead.
zoom in on the text, make the text a little bit bigger.
Okay.
So now by suppressing that tool call, we don't have a tool call on head 2. We're calling it up on head 1. And then utilizing the weight commands, everything's waiting until both spindles are in position and doing the drilling.
Right, so say whichever one finishes first, it's going to wait for the other one to finish. If I was only spotting on the sub spindle but drilling an inch deep on the main, obviously it's going to wait for it until it goes.
That code looks great.
It's as simple as that. Very clean. With this editor, you may notice and may like it that we've got the align syncs in here. In another video, I'm going to be going over on how to set up the code expert to work for your machine. So look forward to that in the near future. Thanks a lot for being with us today. Thanks a lot for coming, Chris. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Vince. Thanks for showing us all the little tips and tricks.
All right, take care and thanks for choosing Mastercam. Who's got a bottle opener? I do.